Chicago Cubs. News today.
What's up, Cubs fans? Look, I need to be honest with you today. There's been news going around since the weekend that I tried to ignore. I hoped it was exaggerated, tried to find some kind of positive angle, but then the general manager spoke, and what he didn't say weighed more than anything he actually said. And look, when the front office makes a statement like that, choosing every word carefully with zero optimism, none of that, he'll be fine soon talk. You know, the situation is serious. One of the pillars of our rotation, a guy we were counting on for 2026, is in limbo. And the imaging tests have already been done, already reviewed, and the silence that followed says everything. Because when it's something simple, they talk right away. When it takes this long, we already know how that story goes. And that's what we need to talk about today, because this could impact the Cubs way more than it seems. Look, I wanted to come on here and talk about the series against the Guardians, about how the team is adjusting, about what to expect from the rotation this week, but there's no way to ignore what's happening. And today, after what Carter Hawkins said on the radio, it got a lot harder to pretend everything is fine. Let's talk about Cade Horton. Last Friday, in Cleveland, Horton was in the second inning against the Guardians when he called for the trainer after throwing a pitch to Bo Naylor. He turned toward the dugout, was taken out of the game, and walked straight to the clubhouse. And that moment, the way he walked off, head down, anyone who saw it knew it didn't look minor. Marquee Sports Field reporter Taylor McGregor said, Horton had tears in his eyes as he walked off. That's not the look of someone dealing with a blister. That's the look of someone who knows something is really wrong. The last pitch he threw was a 93.8 mile per hour fastball, slower than usual. And after the game, he explained what he felt. Tightness in his right wrist that started moving into his forearm during the game. He said he didn't want to risk making it worse, that he wanted to be smart, that he's been through this before and knows the consequences of pushing through it. And you know what? I respect that. But at the same time, as a fan, you sit there hoping it's anything except what you're afraid it might be. If you follow the Cubs, drop a like. You know, we don't make videos like this because we enjoy bringing bad news. On Sunday, the Cubs placed Horton on the 15-day injured list with a right forearm strain. Pitcher Riley Martin was called up from AAA Iowa to fill the roster spot. That part was expected. But what wasn't in the script was what General Manager Carter Hawkins said this morning on 10:43 The Score. And look, I tried to listen with an open mind. I really did. But when you hear a GM say, the imaging results were tough to look at, you know, the conversation just changed levels. Hawkins didn't give a definitive diagnosis. The full MRI results aren't out yet. The interview happened shortly before the game against Tampa Bay, and fans were expecting clarity, but it didn't come. What we got instead was that executive-style language you learn to read over time, the kind where what's not said matters more than what is. He said the team will try to understand if there was anything that contributed to this situation, and that they can improve going forward. And when a GM says going forward in this context, he's not talking about next week. He's talking long term. And that says everything. Now here's the real weight of all this. Horton was the runner-up for National League Rookie of the Year in 2025. 11 wins, 4 losses, a 2.67 ERA in 118 innings. He was the Cubs' best pitcher last year. Plain and simple. And when Justin Steele went down with UCL surgery, it was Horton who held the rotation together. In the second half of 2025, he posted a 1.03 ERA in 12 starts. That's the level we're talking about. And now, in 2026, with Steele still recovering, with Matthew Boyd on the injured list with a biceps strain, Horton was the backbone of this rotation, the name that gave this season stability. Forearm discomfort is a common warning sign of UCL issues and often comes before Tommy John surgery. Not always, but often enough that nobody is sleeping easy tonight. And here's the part that hurts even more. Horton already had Tommy John surgery back in college at Oklahoma in February of 2021. So if the diagnosis confirms the worst, this would be his second procedure. And you don't need to be a doctor to understand what that means for a 24-year-old pitcher. But let's be real about what this team still has. The rotation includes Jamison Tyon, Shota Imanaga, and trade addition Edward Cabrera, Colin Rea, who stepped in Friday, had a 3.95 ERA last year as a starter and a 1.17 ERA in 3 playoff games. Ben Brown has been solid as a multi-inning reliever. Javier Assad is in AAA Iowa. There's depth. The Cubs are not falling apart, but there's a difference between surviving and truly competing for a title. And without Horton, that conversation changes. This season started with the Cubs being talked about as a real World Series contender. The window is open. The roster is built. Bregman is here. The fans believe. And then Friday happened. Look, we still don't know. The MRI results will tell us. Maybe it's something minor. Maybe Horton comes back in a few weeks stronger than ever. Believe that. Every fan wants to believe that. But Hawkins' statement today didn't sound like someone preparing to deliver good news. It sounded like someone choosing his words very carefully, because the truth is going to hurt when it arrives. So here's the question for you, Cubs Nation. If the worst is confirmed and Horton misses the season, do you believe this roster, as it's built right now, can still seriously compete for the postseason? Let me know in the comments, because this is a conversation we need to have. Go Cubs, go!